The Play Absolutely podcast with Dr. Sue Jennings and Dr. Andy Hickson. Hi, Sue. It's fabulous to see you again. Wow.
Hello, Andy.
Yeah, you're looking great today.
Absolutely play.
Absolutely play. Play absolutely. Yeah, nothing but play. I mean, what do you think the world would be if literally all we did was play? Do you think that do you think that would sort of slowly disintegrate the world, or do you think it'd make it a better place?
If we could allow ourselves time to really play and not have other people interfering and saying, that's enough now, and no more, you've done enough now, and all these restrictions, particularly that grown-ups put on children,
Hmm.
I think would go a long way to solving a lot of issues in the world because by exploring through play, we find solutions.
We do, exactly. I mean, do you remember some of the international projects that we've been involved in the past? One that particularly comes to mind is that we were involved in several EU projects
That's right.
before Brexit, of course,
Yeah,
which, yeah, funded by the EU. Do you remember the anti-bullying projects that we did?
I
And
do.
I always remember, because slightly different culture, maybe a different understanding of play, but we were always questioned when we were writing on the applications that, you know, if we were sort of involving children in games or adults in games or creative activities, that it was always said, well, that's not very serious for an anti-bullying project. Are you sure it's all okay just to do play things? It's We need to be a bit more serious than that. I don't know.
Mhm.
Do you remember any of those
But I
comments?
remember very well, and
Yeah,
it was very difficult even to explain to some of the participants that play itself was a very serious activity.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, play. I mean, even without our sort of play absolutely or the play that we try to encourage in people, uh, it's known for all of time. I think that the way children learn best is through play.
Through playing,
Mm,
through testing things out through play, through
yeah.
discovering new things through play.
Mm.
And one has to wonder why it is so frowned upon or legislated against or limited. Is that the people are actually really scared of what will come out of the play?
I think it's because certainly this is my understanding is that when you say the word play, it's like it's not serious. People think that you're doing something that isn't serious, and that play is just about having fun. Where you and I know that's totally different than that. Yeah,
Yes, for most people, it's something you do in your spare time, it's recreation, you do it after school or at the
children
weekend.
do it, not adults.
Hmm. But school is serious learning,
Hmm.
and any play interferes with the learning rather than enhancing the learning.
It is strange, isn't it? Because I mean, if you look at the theorists, the educational theorists, you know, you even go back to the 70s. You know, when you got Erickson and you got Piaget and all of those Montessori. I mean, what's at the foundation of a lot of their knowledge that they try to give to us is that the basics are of education, of learning, is through play. I mean, they were all saying that, you know, last century, and yet people are still finding it difficult to apply it to their education. Yeah.
But I think the main objections do come from the US and Western Europe.
Okay.
I don't think they're necessarily worldwide. I think,
Mm.
well, we found in our, again, we come back to the Temia people,
Yeah.
and play was certainly encouraged at every level. I mean, they would play at practical adult tasks, they'd play to discover, they would play at being a shaman and a
Mm.
singer in the seances, and they would copy what they'd listened to or heard the night before.
Mm. Mm. The thing
So
about
another a non-Western culture very much endorsing playfulness.
yeah, I mean, the one thing that it doesn't really amaze me about play because I understand it, but always makes me feel good is that when you're playing in an activity, it's like you're learning, but you don't even realize you're learning because you're having so much fun.
Mm.
And what's wrong with having fun while you're learning? I think that's what the issue is. I don't know. Maybe it's sort of more about Victorian values and so on. That
Mm.
if you're learning, that's something serious, and you can't enjoy it. You can't have fun while you're learning.
But just think of this very specific play of sand play,
Hmm.
whether you're observing children at the seaside building forts and castles and dad wanting to join in, or whether you're using sand play for therapy in the playroom. You are essentially playing with sand and water and a few objects.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can be telling a story, you can be recounting something that happened to you as a child, you can
Hmm.
be inventing something new,
Yeah.
you can be burying treasure. It's so much. And that is sand play.
Mm. Well, I'm not going to stop playing. You know, I might be an old man now, but I will play until my grave.
Mm,
So talking about playing and like doing things non-stop. Actually, we weren't really
mm,
talking about that. I'm trying to squeeze in a topic that we wanted to talk about. Is that there comes a time in a day when, whether it's playing, whether it's serious, you get a bit tired, you get a bit lacking in energy,
mm,
and one of the things I know you suggest, Sue, and something I've experienced in a few of the other countries that I've
mm,
lived in, is that children at school often have, half an hour, 40 minutes break somewhere in the middle of the day where they have a little
mm.
nap. Now, in the
Nap
UK,
time.
I've never seen that.
Mm,
I'm sure there are schools that do that, but I've never experienced it. And I've been to thousands of schools in the UK. But
mhm. Well, I
Malaysia, for
think
example.
now it doesn't happen regularly. It's an individual school that decides to.
Oh, okay.
But years ago, every primary school had nap time, and the children would unroll a mat and have
Mm,
something to cover them up,
mm.
and the teacher would sit with records of music and would play
Ah.
classical music while the children rested.
So just
But they
take a
weren't just sort of
pause.
left, they
Ju-
actually had music to go with the rest time.
ah,
And I gather that some of the education authorities began to complain that this was valuable learning time.
of
And rather
course.
than encouraging napping, we should be encouraging more learning. And
Right.
someone did a very interesting piece of research and concluded that nowadays children of 5 years old
Hmm.
were learning at the level that 8 year olds were learning when we used to have nap time.
Okay. So that must be a good thing then, right?
Well, why do we need to stuff children with any more facts at 5 years old
True.
when we know 5 year olds learn through movement and through not sitting still, hand on head or finger on lips, and all
Hmm.
these strict rules that people impose on 5 year olds, sometimes even 4 year olds?
It still happens. I mean, I
I
was on a
know.
mini
The
tour last
teacher
week.
said, "What am I saying?"
Yeah.
No, I mean, dreadful.
Yeah. Wow. So
So,
yeah, go on, speak.
thinking about nap time and resting, apparently, again, there's been research that proves that if a child has a nap, their brain actually gets refreshed
Hmm.
and they process what they've already learned that day in a more efficient way and they remember it. Their recall is better.
Okay.
So there's quite a lot of research that's going on now about nap time.
Is it just the UK? Because I do remember as a when I was a child, one of the things that we used to talk about was the French, I think, education system, and I remember being told that French children go to work, go to school on Saturdays, And I was used to think, oh, how terrible for them. But then I also learned that they didn't start until midday on a weekday or something like that. So
Mm,
it wasn't that they were doing more hours. They were probably doing less hours, more days, but it wasn't crammed full of,
mm,
sort of
mm,
all this, as you say, learning time.
mm.
Yeah, maybe just giving too much learning time
Well, we do
to
seem
children.
obsessed that the younger the child, the sooner they must start learning.
Right.
And other cultures, other systems have shown that actually starting at 5 doesn't help your learning at all.
So
I mean, the
when do
Finnish
you
system,
think? When does Sue Jennings think that is the ideal time to start learning? Then
I think the ideal time to start any form of structured learning, formal learning, if you
formal
like,
learning.
is 7 years.
7.
That's because
Mm.
there's a huge change going on in our brains at that age. So before that, it's not that we're not learning, but we're
Yeah,
learning in a different way. We're
yeah.
learning through exploring. This, we're learning through play.
Through mimicking, through watching, through
Mm.
sharing, through
Mixing,
yeah.
mixing things and seeing what happens.
And I
Children are
suppose
great inventors if they're allowed to be.
yeah, you get to learn. I suppose at that early age, also you're learning in a way or in an area that interests you. Because if say you want to copy what your dad's doing, or you like what your dad's doing, you watch your dad working in the workshop or whatever, or your mum working in the workshop, and maybe have a try yourself.
Mm,
Because you're interested, not because you've been told to or forced to do that, right?
mm, mm.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
I think it was Montessori, if I remember rightly, who wanted to make sure that children always had real things to play with,
That's right. Yeah. Real
wasn't it? Not
scissors
plastic
rather than like
equivalents.
plastic scissors or something.
Mm.
Real tools for real work, I think was what
And of
she
course, do
said.
you
Mm.
remember with the Temia youngsters, toddlers, handling sharp machetes perfectly safely?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you'd have a full on big bush
Mm,
knife or machete, or
mm.
as they would call it,
I mean,
wadge. Wadge is the Temiar word. Um,
I remember being
yeah.
terrified watching a 3 or 4-year-old splitting open a pineapple
Yes.
with a very sharp blade. And my heart was in my mouth because you would never have allowed even a 10-year-old to
No.
use such a, a blade, let alone
Mm.
anyone younger than that.
Well, do you remember that? I mean, that extreme. I had one really extreme accident when we were living there when I was 13 years old. And that accident was really as a result of me not learning how to use the bush knife properly
Mm,
as a child. So as a teenager, I'd watched a few people kind of chopping down bamboo. And unlike a Temiar who would maybe have been 3 years old when they started learning, I'm 13, so 10-year gap. And the first time I tried it, I got the angle coming into the bamboo to chop it down wrong, and all it
mm,
did is slid down the bamboo, and
mm,
it nearly chopped my leg off. Do you remember the
mm,
blood? My
mm,
my knee kind of exploded with blood, and
mm,
it was just everywhere. And that was because I didn't know what I was doing. I was
mm,
bedridden. I was
mm.
very ill actually for about a month from that, wasn't I? Yeah,
Yes, and there was a huge fear that it would get infected.
yeah, yeah.
And of course, for the Temiars, as we know, they have an intrinsic fear of blood,
Yeah.
so they
So
would
they weren't
just run
much
away.
help, were they? Yeah.
Yes, and you probably remember other members of the family had various cuts of different
Mm.
sorts, and there was me in the middle of the jungle with a box of Band-Aid and little else.
Yeah. I mean, I think you had some antiseptic powder and various plasters and maybe a few bandages, but yeah, that was it. I think the lucky thing is I know you're a doctor, you're not a medical doctor, but your dad was a medical doctor. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you sort of drew on a few things that, that
Mm,
he must have not officially
Well,
taught
one thing
you,
I
but you
remembered so
learned.
well was
Yeah.
he didn't like to use stitches for children in particular
Oh,
because he didn't want children to already have lifelong scars.
right.
So wherever he could, he used what he called cross plastering.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So
I've
he
had one of
drew
those. Mm.
the wound together,
Yeah.
putting plasters across.
Mm.
And I did that for you and your siblings, and it was fine.
Mm. Mm.
All three cases.
Yeah. I think they're called stitching plasters now, aren't they? They're
Mm,
actually specially adapted plasters you can buy.
mm.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean now they're in conventional boxes of plasters, but I mean we were doing that way before suture plasters were invented.
Mm.
But I mean, so we're coming back to this balance between aha.
Sorry, he shouted. He interrupted. He said, me, I want to speak.
Well,
Hello.
if we're going to play with
Hello.
puppets, I am,
Oh, you've got a puppet handy as well. Oh, in a bin. Lovely.
and I hide in the dustbin because I don't think very much of myself really.
Oh,
A
no.
raccoon that lives in a dustbin. And
It,
I come out now and again.
yeah. So many different types of puppets. I mean, you and I are lovers of puppets, of course. I
Mm.
mean, you come in my house and you'll see puppets everywhere. You'll see them in the background there. I've got two standing up, one wearing a pair of sunglasses. He's going to say bye-bye, bye-bye. I don't know where I picked him up. I think he was a gift in my younger days. But yeah, it's sort of made to look really old, but actually I think it's relatively modern. But I
Mhm.
don't even know where that came from. But puppets. I mean, how much joy, how much do you love working with puppets? I love them. I love them. You can stay for them
It's
now.
quite interesting teachers
Yeah.
and therapists who don't like puppets because
Oh,
I never quite understand that.
really? There's people that
Mm.
don't like puppets.
People feel uncomfortable using a puppet.
Why would they
And
feel uncomfortable?
I think what people mistakenly think is that
Mm.
they've got to be like ventriloquists.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah.
And I think
It's
that
not
puts
my
people off.
sleeping, it's my sausage
That's,
sleeping.
they need that sort of a skill
Yeah.
rather than, for goodness sake, you can use your own voice and play with the puppet how you want to.
Absolutely. Now, I think if you want to try and create some reality for a puppet as well, there's a few really easy things. I mean, in fact, for me, maybe you feel a bit differently, but for me, certainly, the number one thing to help your puppet be a little more real, if you're sort of doing some kind of show, you've got an audience, is that if you've got the puppet in front of you, you don't you yourself, the operator of the puppet, don't look at the audience, but you look at your puppet. And then when you're looking at your puppet, that's when your audience will look too. Yeah, it's just the
Absolutely.
focus, isn't it? Mm.
Mhm.
But yeah, I love a
And
good
of course,
puppet.
one thing I do in terms of my training courses,
Mm.
I show people how to make simple puppets.
Okay.
But
What,
often
using a
when you're
sock or
working
something? That's the obvious one, isn't it?
using a sock or using a glove is
Mm.
the simplest you can do. But you can even make a little finger puppet by just putting a strip of paper round your finger and then putting a round circle to make its head.
Okay.
So you've got a basic shape.
Yeah, yeah. How
You
did
can
you
have
tape
four
it? How did you tape it together?
sellotape,
Oh, with a bit of sellotape.
yeah. But then you can draw the face, you can stick some wool for hair,
Right.
you can clothe it and so on.
But I'm surely
And
you can make anything into a puppet. I mean, I've got a pen here. You can make a pen come alive as a puppet. You don't need a head. Like, hello, I'm a pen.
mm.
I mean, okay.
Well, one of my warm-up exercises I use again on the training is to get people to walk around their room and pick up an object that is the most unlike a puppet they can find
Mm.
but treat it as a puppet.
Okay.
And it's amazing, they pick up a little vase or a branch off a tree or what,
Yeah.
and realize they can become puppet-like and have a voice and a movement and
Mm.
so on. And it comes across so well that people realize there is no barrier to puppet work.
No, no. Uh,
Anything can actually be a puppet.
Anything can be a puppet, and it reminds me of a similar activity that I did a couple of times with Augusto Boal when I worked with him many years ago. Uh,
Hmm.
oh, that sounds a bit. It wasn't just me working with him. I mean, I've been on a few of his workshops, so there was plenty of us. But one of his famous activities actually is called "What's in a Bottle," and it's literally that you'll get any kind of bottle, and you know, you sort of say, right, this is not a bottle, this is a hat, or this is a bat, or this is a spoon, or and any object, depending on how you use it or portray it or show it, can become anything you want it to be, really. Yeah. The same with puppets. So, what's your
Yeah.
favourite puppet?
Uh, this is one of my favorites. And this is the five mice in the cheese.
Ah, wow, nice. So each individual mouse is a puppet, is it?
Yes, a
Uh,
little
is
finger puppet.
is the cheese itself a puppet?
No,
Okay.
no, the cheese could be what you want. And I think the most moving session I had
Hmm.
was when I was running a training program in Romania.
Okay. There's a home of puppetry in Romania, isn't there?
Mm. But we used the mouse and cheese, and I said that the cheese was an orphanage.
Oh, right. Nice.
And it was a big group, so we divided into five small groups, and each
Okay.
person had a mouse,
Right.
and they had to decide on the story of how come that mouse ended up in the mouse orphanage.
Okay.
And Andy, it just took off.
Really.
It was quite extraordinary, the stories, because of course you remember that there was a bad time in Romania when some of the orphanages were quite notorious for cruelty to children.
I mean,
Mm,
it can't bear thinking about, but I mean, I do
mm,
remember, and I remember from the mouths of people that were in orphanages as
mm,
children and what they, I don't even know if I want to describe it. I mean, chained to the beds as
mm,
babies,
mm.
not being fed enough and having to literally regurgitate their food and then eat it later on
Eat it more slowly.
to eat it more slowly. Oh, it was
Mm.
just awful.
So, I mean, thank goodness those days are over now.
Right. Was that under
And they
Ceausescu,
have
was it?
small children's units, they have foster homes, and so on.
Okay.
But with this particular group, one group decided that the mouse had been used in a scientific experiment and then
Oh.
just discarded and
Mm.
thrown out, and that's how they came to your. And each individual mouse had a story of trauma, which was why
Mm.
they ended up in the
Okay.
orphanage.
Just for the viewers, you've
And
broken up a little bit. I think your
what was so
internet connection's
moving,
not
of the
brilliant.
mouse moving, is that each of the stories
Hmm.
enabled people to talk about their own deep trauma.
Okay.
So it kept them safe,
Hmm.
because the one thing we don't do is say, oh, aha, is that how you really feel? Which
Right.
unfortunately some practitioners indiscriminately practice
Come
in that
on,
way.
really?
But
Really?
staying with the metaphor of the mouse and the cheese orphanage meant
Hmm.
that people could actually process some of their own history, their own
Yeah.
things they'd observed, things that they had suffered,
Hmm.
things that their relatives had suffered, and so on. So it became an extraordinary icon.
Hmm.
What started off just as a simple creative puppet for children.
The cheese orphanage.
Absolutely.
Did any orphanages then get named the Big Cheese or anything like that?
That would be funny. Yes, maybe I should call the technique the big cheese
The big cheese. Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
still use it as a technique,
Okay.
but not necessarily calling the cheese the orphanage
Right. Right. Depending on
because
where you are, isn't it? It depends. So,
you can
you
have
go with
any
local
names you
knowledge.
like.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For
And
sure.
something just to point out when we're talking about play and cross-cultural play
Hmm.
is that games and techniques vary depending on the culture of the country.
For sure. Yeah.
So, for example, I'm sure you know the story I tell about the invisible child,
Okay.
which was written by Tove Jansson from Norway, where we know the winters are very, very cold and so on.
Mm.
But, and at one point in the story, the mother takes off her petticoat
Mm.
and turns it into a dress for the child.
Okay. Nice.
But I mean, when I'm telling the story in northern countries, it can be a warm wool petticoat because it's the winter
Mm.
time. But that would make absolutely no sense in Malaysia or India.
No.
So I have to remember to turn it into a silk petticoat
Mm.
to suit that culture. So even at that simple level,
Mm.
that type of adjustment between cultures is really very important. We can't just impose a Western story as it exists onto another culture.
For sure. Yeah. One of the ways that I've used puppets in my work, and I do use them a lot in my work, particularly when I'm working with younger children, is that what I find puppets are particularly useful for when working with various traumas, bullying, for example, as you know, one of my specialities, is that it allows children, young people, to express things that they might normally feel safe or comfortable expressing because you give them this sort of sense that it's safe to speak because it's not actually you that's expressing
Mm.
here, it's the puppet. So that means they can put all of their worries, all of their concerns, all of their questions, they can direct it through the puppet, and yeah, they may well be speaking of from themselves, but actually the puppet makes
Mm.
it a
Mm.
really safe pathway for them to use, and I
Indeed.
love that.
And sometimes they want you as the teacher or facilitator to have a puppet sitting on your knee.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So the puppet will respond to their puppet,
Mm.
which they'll listen to and take a lot more notice of rather than you yourself.
Mm.
I have two puppets that can be on my knee. One is a grandma puppet
Okay.
who's old and wise. She's wise grandma.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is quite interesting because teenagers like her a lot. She's called Raggedy Ann,
Raggedy
and
Ann.
Mhm. And she looks as if she's dressed in charity shop clothes.
Okay.
Her skirt is uneven
Mm.
round, and her shoes are well worn, and she's got a rough top, and so on. And when I introduce Raggedy Ann, Raggedy Ann is streetwise. She's been there, and I always use this gesture. She knows,
Mm.
and they love her, and they'll
Mm.
ask her all sorts of things and tell her things and so on. She very much comes alive.
Mm.
Older children and teenagers like her a lot. Younger children
Okay.
tend to choose grandma.
Right. Right. It reminds me you telling that story a little bit. I mean, some of our viewers might not know. You have done some TV work, and there was one children's series called Brum, which I think you were in for a while.
That's
Reminds me
right.
of that character that you played in Brum.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was such a shame that in the end they decided not to continue producing Brum.
Yeah. Well.
But if they had, I would
Mm.
have become a stock character because
Oh,
in the moment, my character, although I was old Sally, I was called Sally
okay.
or Auntie Sally,
Mm, mm.
and I lived in a caravan and kept a goat, which of course mirrored my own life very and braid of roses over the doorway. I mean, it was a perfect eccentric life, if you like. That was very funny. Yes,
Yeah. So,
I'd forgotten all about that.
conscious of time, we don't want to stretch this too much. And yeah, again, like always, I could talk with you all day about all things play and puppets. The two P's. Oh, play and puppets today. But let's let's draw this to a close. And the way I was thinking that we could draw it to a close actually is what also came to my mind, rather than all the positive things about puppets and the use of puppets, is that we can also look at puppetry or being a puppet as a slightly negative thing, because being somebody else's puppet means that you're maybe losing control, or you're not in control. Other people are making decisions for you in your life. So, what would be
Yes, we
your
have
recommend?
expressions. Don't we?
Yeah. You're acting like a
Who's
puppet,
pulling the
or who's
strings?
pulling the strings. So, with that in mind, we like to end on a positive and giving some, I don't know, not necessarily advice, but some suggestions to help people in their lives. If people feel that others are pulling their strings, what do you think is a good strategy to overcome that or deal with that?
Well, if we're going to think in puppet terms,
Hmm.
then what we're going to think about is how do we cut the strings?
Ah.
So, keeping the metaphor of the puppet,
Hmm.
who's pulling the strings? Well, let's work out how could we cut them,
Right.
and to be able to reflect. Has somebody always pulled the strings? Has that been a lifelong thing
Hmm.
that it's going to take more energy to cut than if it happened recently in a new relationship?
Hmm.
And of course, when that happens, it's very much connected with our own lack of confidence
Hmm.
in our capacity to do things for ourselves. And of course, coercive control, like pulling the strings, is very much connected with what we now term a narcissistic personality.
Right. Of course.
So all of that needs to be recognized. No excuses.
Hmm. Hmm.
Nobody has an excuse for coercive control.
No.
And apparently now, if somebody in a relationship of any kind, adult partners, adult child,
Hmm.
if they feel they're in that situation, they can ring the police
Right. Yeah.
and tell
Of
them they're
course.
being controlled, and the police will respond. They'll either send round a specialised social worker or they'll go themselves.
Hmm. Yeah. People need to remember that. I mean, you
You can
back
get
it.
out of it,
You
and
can get
other
out of it. Yes.
and now I think it doesn't always work.
Hmm.
There's still mistakes, but far more police realise that domestic situations need to be attended to.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
one time, police would say, "Oh, it's a domestic, don't get involved."
Hmm. Hmm.
But fortunately, there's a lot more training in relation to coercive control, domestic violence, and so on.
One of the things that I'll put up on screen for our viewers is maybe a helpline or two,
Yes.
sort of domestic trauma helpline or so on.
Mm,
I don't know
mm,
exactly what they are, but I'll put some general ones for the UK,
mm,
in case people feel
mm.
they need it. And I think,
And if we're,
go on.
I was going to say, if we're going to feel that we can escape the
Mm,
negative situation, think about having a puppet to have a positive relationship with.
yeah.
You may find a soft, cuddly puppet. There are lots of beautiful owl puppets with lots of babies and things like that.
Oh, yes.
Be nice to have a picture of one of those. I haven't got one to hand, but
Okay.
but again, something to cuddle, like the old-fashioned toy when you were little,
Hmm.
something to make you feel good
Yeah. Yeah.
as a way. And cuddly toys are so reassuring. Don't give away your teddy. You need it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not much I can add to that. I would just say mimic really something that you've said is if you feel you're being controlled, reflect back and just think about who is pulling those strings. Because if you can't locate where the strings are being pulled, it's quite difficult then to deal with it. So yeah, one of the first things you need to do is to have a good long look at yourself. You reflect on yourself and your life, and are you making those decisions for yourself, or are other people pulling your strings and making you feel this, making you feel that, or even making you do this or do that?
And always remember that the string pulling isn't necessarily a direct thing.
Oh no, no, it's often hidden.
And I had somebody in therapy whose partner would say things in public,
Right.
like, if she achieved anything at all, would say, hasn't she done well? And she didn't even go to college,
Gosh.
which
Mm.
was extraordinary when you think about it. She could never ever be affirmed for anything she achieved because he would always couch it in, she did this despite such and such,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
if there was a lack there.
Always adding in a negative. But then some
Mm,
people live their lives in negativity. It's
mm,
something I always find difficulty appreciating, as empathetic as I can be.
mm.
Yeah, so we all have our shortfalls. I think that's one of mine.
Which, of course, is why we need good supervision, which we
Yeah.
might be a topic in the future, I
I'm
think.
just about to say that I think supervision is often a misunderstood concept, particularly in the
Hmm.
therapeutic world, or people that are on the periphery of the therapeutic world. I think misunderstand that word supervision and guidance, if you like. So, yes, let's talk about that soon. But yeah, I think for now, brilliant talking with you again. I look forward to our next session. Remind people, please subscribe down below, give us a like if you enjoyed listening to us, and remember to leave a comment to give us some ideas about what you would like us to talk about. Yeah, we're open to your ideas. So
And always remember, keep playing.
keep on playing. And from me, I'm going to go and play some off camera. So I'll see you soon, Mum.
Well, I'm off to my sand tray again.
Okay.
Bye
Ciao.
bye.